I don't make eye contact if it's dark outside. A lot of it is if it's dark outside.
Not trying to look like I want anything.
Look forward, always. I always make sure that I'm not typing on my phone.
I ride my bike to school because I have the idea that if I'm riding my bike home at night, it'll be quicker than walking and I'll be less vulnerable.
I don't walk around it by myself at night.
I don't walk with headphones in. I usually stay very alert.
Sometimes I put my ring on my married finger.
I call people when I'm walking at night.
I walk a lot faster.
I try not to walk at night and alone at night.
I pretty much try to avoid like being by myself.
I usually don't go out without my friends. I won't walk home alone. When I do walk home, I always will have like my keys in my hand so that I have something.
I never really get drunk or anything.
It's not being too drunk.
I try not to be too sexy or whatever.
Well, I don't think I've ever thought that before, of what I do or do not do. I've never had that fear before.
I personally don't do anything on a daily basis so that I won't get raped.
Really don't think about that. I don't really worry about that.
I don't think about it. Thankfully, I've not really been in a lot of situations where I've been nervous about that.
Like, it's always been like that thing where it's like, okay girls, make sure you watch your drinks, you don't get roofied.
The idea of don't go there alone or bad things can happen if you do this. I think it's a socially learned thing, mostly.
Yeah, I think my whole sex education was being taught how to not be raped, slash my whole life. Isn't that always the moral of the story when rape comes up? Like, she was wearing this, or like, should have been doing that, like.
When you're like getting oriented into college, they have like this huge thing about like women traveling groups, or they tell you a lot about GHB.
I've heard my parents say things about like people asking for it and ways to avoid it. I think before I went to college, a lot of people gave me advice on things to do to be safe.
Going into college, it's usually a typical response like, if you're going out at night, don't like let anyone give you a drink, like you need to get your own drink. Or don't walk home alone, or don't get too drunk because who knows what could happen. So yeah, that idea of don't get raped is very instilled in us since we're born, basically. Like, don't ever be alone, always be with someone.
And then it's just like the culture around me of my friends and what I read and what I see. I mean, there are even posters around our university at one point that were saying like, girls, in order to not get raped or to prevent rape, make sure that you do this, make sure you walk with your friends, make sure you call for a ride home and things like that. So I think it's all around us in society. I think we're taught from a very young age that it's the girl's responsibility in order to not get raped. I wear dresses with tights.
I guess I don't really show a lot of skin.
If I'm going places where I don't know people, I'll dress more conservatively.
I don't wear leggings because I don't want men to stare at my butt.
Growing up, I always tried to wear like higher necklines so as not to like show off any cleavage.
I'm always super careful about how I dress.
I always am uncomfortable in V-neck shirts. I feel like I'm always pulling them up because I'm worried that someone is looking.
Definitely, I try not to ever like show cleavage.
I have a very vivid memory of middle school. I was literally wearing a sweatshirt and this guy was like, oh Ellie, like why are you wearing that sweatshirt? And I was like, what are you talking about? And he grabbed my like collar of my sweatshirt and like pulled it away from me, you know, so he could like see down my shirt. And so it's like, even if I'm wearing something that's like covering like literally every inch of skin, like neck down, I'm literally still gonna get sexualized because I've always had bigger breasts.
Excusing inappropriate behavior or behavior that wouldn't be accepted from, I guess, a female.
All types of misbehavior.
Fighting your boys, like picking on girls.
Like kids on the playground beating each other up.
Like pushing a girl down, or like getting in fights. Let's just assume that they're gonna be destructive and
you just gotta kind of deal with it.
Particularly when we're young and in school, and like a boy will pick on you or like push you down or pull your hair, and they're like, oh well, boys will be boys, he probably just likes you.
When guys will like talk about us, like I guess a female, in a sexualizing way.
Pursuing somebody sexually who is not interested.
When they are making cracks about women's butts.
Grabbing a woman by her pussy.
But taking advantage of women.
Oh, such a bad excuse for any sort of malicious, violent language.
I mean, even with the Donald Trump, locker room banter was with Donald Trump, but, you know, similar kind of a thing where, you know, oh, it's okay, it's accepted.
I've heard people like excuse that behavior, excuse like men saying that about other people because of the fact they have raging hormones and they are like have more of a sex drive than women, which.
And what they need, like they need to have sex.
Especially in high school, because again, like we had dress codes where we weren't allowed to wear things because, you know, boys can't control themselves.
That men lack the ability to control themselves, and so again, it's women's job to prevent it.
I would say it's normalized for boys.
Muscles as a self-assuredness.
Muscles and girls and cars.
Heterosexual.
Assertive.
Inconsiderate.
There's like this sense of entitlement,
like sexual prowess.
Assertive.
Controlling.
Domineering.
Strong, rigid, unemotional.
There's a pressure in the gay community to be as straight as you can.
They expect them to take charge.
Interested in women.
Who doesn't express feelings.
Forceful. Sexual.
Have dominant roles.
Aggressive, wearing the pants. To be emotionless.
Like anger. Refrain from expressing emotions completely, especially ones pertaining to like, you know, sadness, or like extreme delight.
Being able to get women or seduce women.
In charge, aggressive.
I think that depends on a lot of things, because if you look at the expectations of like a white man versus a black man, they're very different.
Society expects a male to be willing to put others below him. Tough mentality, aggressive.
Males are often taught like in order to be masculine you have to like detach yourself and just be assertive and be dominant over the females in your life.
No, it's kind of like the macho.
Kind of go for whatever they want and to be demanding. It's not very emotional unless that emotion is like anger or like beating people up.
Is like submissive. Women should be pretty and women should smile.
More emotional.
Be pure and be chaste.
Like more passive.
Complacent.
To be pure and chaste.
Sex objects.
To be submissive.
Attractive and available for men.
Very quiet.
Emotional.
White and beautiful and thin.
I think passive. I want to say like letting others make a decision for them.
And to be attractive to men and for men to want me, but I'm also expected to not pursue men or want men in that sexual way. I'm not supposed to want things sexually.
Not be scared when I walk home from class at 5 o'clock when I wouldn't have as much of a guard up.
I could do things all on my own. I could go to festivals alone and just like enjoy things, not have to look around me all the time.
I would run at night. I would do a lot of things by myself.
Less worried when I am getting intimate with a guy that like they're gonna respect my boundaries and I don't have to push so hard. Like when I say I'm like when I don't want to move any further, that it's not pushed.
I guess I wouldn't feel like, you know, I think it has been automatically ingrained in me to like be cautious.
I think I would feel more free to dress the way I wanted to, or like act the way I wanted to, or dance the way I wanted to.
I would be much more comfortable going out at night without like a set plan of how I was getting home. If I went on a date with someone, I wouldn't be like so, if I didn't know them beforehand, being like super worried about what could happen. And even sometimes when you do know them beforehand, being worried of what they might do if you were like to go back to their place and someone else isn't there.
I guess it's just not having to overanalyze like everyday situations.
I would definitely not be as timid to like wear whatever I wanted.
I could walk places without like constantly being in like a small state of panic. Yeah, it'd be really nice to just not be worried about things.
It's such a horrible topic that some people don't want to talk about it.
Like, we need education on that. Rape happens most often between two people who really know each other.
By eliminating the excuse for men, that men will be men, boys will be boys.
Stop victim blaming, stop letting men and boys get away with the things they get away with. Actually holding them accountable for what they're doing.
I think it starts with teaching kids at a young age, you know, there's no right or wrong way to be a man or a woman.
We need to start holding everyone accountable.
Empower women, raise our boys and men to think about women, think about what their choices, their words, their actions how those have an effect on women.
So even the smallest comment from your friend can be corrected by you saying, hey, that's actually not okay, which sometimes is harsh, but that's fine. It's okay to be harsh about things that are important. I would ask that the good men stand up and be active. Any instance of disrespect to a woman that dehumanizes her in any way should be immediately shut down. Just shut it down.
I'd really like, on an everyday basis, for people to recognize that, like, men can be in jeopardy, women can be in jeopardy, in all sorts of situations.
Sexual assault and domestic violence and rape culture and rape happens in same-sex relationships.
I think that we should make it probably easier for women to report these things, taking it very seriously. I think so at a fundamental level we need to take the females absolutely 100% seriously.
You know, just any situation that you're in, if there's something that further establishes those gender roles, addressing it and maybe calling out that phrase or that saying and explaining why it might be hurtful and promoting rape culture.
Personal reflection to kind of tear down these things that are so ingrained in us.
So moving away from victim blaming and looking at what it looks like for guys to have responsibility over their physical actions, but even looking at men having responsibility on their minds, how they view women, how they think about women, starting with how are men, or how am I specifically viewing women, thinking about women, thinking about a partner, and how does that connect with the overall discussion of what rape culture means.
It doesn't matter where they are, what they're doing, what they're wearing.
We need to teach little boys that it's not okay to rape instead of teaching little girls like how not to get raped, and kind of reworking, you know, our definitions of what masculinity is versus what is femininity, and
talking about consent and what consent means, and that yes means yes, and that is the only answer, and that you need that answer every time.
It's rape if they don't say yes.